Alright, so I've been wanting to watch all the Ghibli movies for a long time, but I've been putting them off because I've been burnt out on anime. But I decided to make a video ranking them and it finally gave me the motivation to just binge through them. And they did not disappoint. Almost every single one was amazing. The worlds they built, the animation, the characters, and even the soundtracks completely lived up to the hype. This list was pretty hard to make because most of the movies should be at the top of any list, but are low on this one just because they're competing in such a stacked lineup. That being said, I'm gonna just get into the list. Coming in at last, I have My Neighbors the Yamadas. I can definitely see someone really enjoying this movie. It could have a certain charm to it, but it really was not my thing. I struggled to get through it, and the animation took a lot of the enjoyment out of it for me. This was really the only movie that I almost could not get through. At 22, I have Earwig and the Witch. I did enjoy this movie somewhat, and the concept itself isn't that bad, but it just doesn't really feel like a Ghibli movie. The 3D animation just isn't very good. It does have its moments, but overall, it's nowhere near as nice to look at as the others. And even past the animation, the plot itself isn't very developed. The mom kind of just disappeared to the very end of the movie. It could have possibly made a good Disney movie, but Ghibli tried to do something different and it didn't really work out. Next I have Ponyo. This is where I should say that I've ranked the movies based on how much I like them. If I was younger, I probably would have loved Ponyo, but unlike most of the other Ghibli movies, it doesn't have anything for an older audience. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but obviously it changes my enjoyment. It also is kind of weird when you consider that the main character is like in love with a fish, but again, a younger audience wouldn't really think about that. But still, I do think it is a fairly good movie, although not my favorite. Starting off the top 20, I have Tales from Earthsea. I really wish I enjoyed this movie because I thought the beginning was really good. The world seemed incredible, and a lot of the characters did seem interesting, but it just didn't develop things at all. Like in the end, where did the dragons come from? Why did they have fake names? Maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, but nothing made sense. I did think the antagonist was pretty interesting. He was like a weirder Orochimaru, so that's pretty cool. I know this movie is based on a book series, so they probably just tried to fit too much into one movie, but maybe I will read the book since the world seemed pretty cool, so I mean, I guess that's something I got out of it. Alright, at this point in the list, everything moving forward is going to be at least B tier. At 19, I have The Cat Returns. It hurts to put this so low on the list because I really did enjoy it, but it's really just a fun movie. It doesn't really compare to the other movies higher on the list. It did have a lot of cool characters and an interesting world, but in the end of the day, it's just a goofy movie. At 18, I have When Marnie Was There. This movie did have a lot of potential, and it does have a lot of good aspects to it, but a couple bad things really killed my enjoyment. The main character was just a little bit corny with the whole I hate myself thing. I know it contributes to the message of the movie, but I would have preferred if they just showed it instead of spoon feeding it to the audience. Also, the plot twist at the end, I do have a couple mixed emotions about it, but I do think it did a great job at developing the emotional appeal of the movie. And overall, it is a good movie, but I think there are better ones on the list. Next I have Ocean Waves. Ocean Waves is good, that's really it. There really isn't anything wrong with it, but it's really just a normal slice of life anime. It's a really good one, but it doesn't stand out as much as the rest on this list. I feel like it could have been made by a couple other studios, while some of the better Ghibli movies are really just exclusively Ghibli. But I just also want to mention how the main character lent a girl he had pretty much never talked to 60,000 yen, which I think is $600. I probably wouldn't even do that for my closest friends. Maybe I'm just a bad person, but I think he's an idiot. Like, did he just do it because she was hot? I don't know, but I'm gonna just move on. At 16, I have Only Yesterday. This is the point in the list where I think every movie is great in its own way. Only Yesterday is a fantastic movie and definitely has a lot of meaning behind it when it comes to childhood, and it introduces so many entertaining small stories from the main character's past. It's mostly slice of life-like and is very good at what it's trying to achieve. The only thing that brings it down on this list is that it is a little longer than it needs to be, and I feel like it developed the characters from her childhood so much, but it lacked when it came to the characters in the present, like Toshio, who's a very important character, but I didn't care about him at all. Also, one scene I forgot to mention, I'm just gonna play it.
このスカートめくり全盛時代に案の定
What? Next on the list, I have From Up on Poppy Hill. It is an incredible movie that kept my attention the entire time. Even though it is pretty short, it's still just as eventful as any other movie. There are so many interesting plots, whether that be saving the school building, the main character dealing with the loss of her father, and the romance between Shun and Umi. Which, by the way, the incest close call was a very odd way for the writers to go, but at least they did a good job with it. And overall, it just is an incredible movie that I think everybody should watch. At 14, I have Whisper of the Heart. I just want to start off by saying it is a great movie, and it does a great job at portraying the themes of finding your passion or direction in life. But hearing Country Roads in an anime really left me bewildered. I was so confused, and I have nothing against the song, but growing up in America, I don't know if I need to hear it any more than I already have. Next, I have The Secret World of Arrietty. I don't know if I would say it's objectively a better movie than Whisper of the Heart, but I just really enjoyed it. I think it has a really unique and great design, and the concept alone is really interesting. It had a very good ending, and overall was just a well done film. The characters are very charming, and the world it introduces is not only great, but also just beautifully designed. I know I already said that, but it's just something that's hard to put into words. At 12, I have Nausicaa. It technically wasn't made by Studio Ghibli, but who really cares? It was directed by Miyazaki, so it counts. Nausicaa was a really good start to what would become Studio Ghibli, and it sets up a lot of the themes that are present in so many of the movies that came after, especially the anti-war theme that is seen in a lot of Ghibli's best films, and there are just so many amazing characters in a world that is built shockingly well for just an hour and a half. Next on the list I have Porco Rosso. I might overrate it just because I personally loved it, but the main character is just so cool. It was probably the movie I was most excited to watch just because it's about a pilot who's a pig in fascist Italy. I just thought it seemed so funny reading the description. But even though the main character is a pig, they somehow portray it in a pretty serious way. There's actually a lot of meaning behind it, with the whole better a pig than a fascist thing. And there's so many likable and good side characters and a plot that is actually interesting. I think it's just one of those movies that everyone has to at least like. I don't understand how anybody could dislike it, and the ending was also incredible, but I don't want to give a huge spoiler. Starting off the top 10, I have Pompoko. I'm gonna be honest, when I was watching all the movies, this is the one I wanted to watch the least. I thought it would be like Ponyo, where it's really just a silly movie, but I was very wrong. It not only has so many lovable characters in an amazing world, but there was a clear purpose behind the movie, an obvious message about urbanization that did an amazing. It's overall just very creative, especially with the use of shape-shifting, like the raccoons using their power to scare the humans, and the ways that they went about it, which is just very creative. Ninth on the list I have Castle in the Sky. It's just a very well done film. Normally I don't like when movies keep switching up who the antagonist is gonna be, but this movie did it pretty smoothly, moving from the pirates to the military to that evil guy in the end. And similar to most Ghibli movies, the world that they set up was incredible, and I already said that anti-war themes are common throughout a lot of Ghibli movies, and this one isn't directly anti-war. It's more against the technologies used in war, which I thought was a pretty cool take. The robot was also just so cool, like the one who took care of the animals, not the ones with lasers. Coming in at 8, I have The Tale of Princess Kaguya. For the most part, I don't like when Ghibli makes big changes in their animation style, but it worked really well with this film. It's just a really beautiful movie, and it can be depressing without even killing off characters, except that one guy who died after falling. That was a little absurd. The only thing I didn't like was that the movie clearly ripped off Naruto. Like, a woman named Kaguya living on the moon sounds a little familiar. Like, come on, man. But I'm gonna let that slide. Next I have My Neighbor Totoro. It's less serious than the other movies in the top 10, but it's just a very fun movie. While there are some sad aspects, like the illness of the mother, it's still overall a feel-good movie. It introduces several charming and iconic characters, including Totoro, who's literally the Ghibli logo. I also really like the dad. I just thought it was funny how he was laid back about everything and always knew the right thing to say. Overall, while it might not be as deep as some of the other movies, it's still one that I would definitely watch again. At 6, I have Grave of the Fireflies. This was the only Ghibli movie that I watched before deciding to make this video. I watched it months ago and still occasionally think about it. It has some of the strongest messages of all of the films. The only thing that moved it down a few spots is that it is a little bit boring, but that kind of contributes to the anti-war themes that wouldn't really make sense if they did glorify it. It is also definitely the most depressing movie, just the way they tell you straight up in the beginning that the main character will die, and then still make you develop a connection to him. The film reminded me of The Book Thief. If you haven't read it, I would definitely recommend it. They both show the lives of children on the opposite side of World War II that we usually don't see. The Book Thief shows a kid in Germany, Grave of the Fireflies shows a kid in Japan. It is very rare to see this side, and I think they both do a fantastic job at just portraying the horrificness of war. Starting in the top 5 is The Wind Rises. This is the first film I watched after I decided to make this video, and it was definitely a great place to start. It's just a beautiful movie that has just about everything going for it. It's emotional, it has an amazing soundtrack that really complements the tone of the movie, probably better than any other Ghibli movie. The animation is great, and the overall plot itself is captivating with several somewhat lovable characters, a little bit less lovable when you remember that they're making plans for Japan and Germany during World War II. And at first, I didn't know if it was in good taste, but knowing it was Miyazaki who made it, and considering the end of the film, I don't think it was glorifying the war, and I think that there are good intentions behind the movie. It definitely displays Miyazaki's love for plans, and if you have not seen this movie, you just have to watch it. At 4, I have Kiki's Delivery Service. We all know the type of people who like this movie, and you really don't want to be that guy, but after watching it, all I can say is I get it. It's a good movie. The world is immersive and captivating, the characters are lovable, the whole concept of the movie is already good, even if it is a little basic, and put together, it's just perfectly executed. I can't really think of many bad things to say about it. Maybe it's not as deep as the movies in the top 3, but I'm not going to be pretentious. It still definitely has its messages, and the film just achieves everything it tries to, and I would definitely watch it again, especially since it's only an hour and 40 minutes. And starting off the top 3 is Howl's Moving Castle. It's just a perfect movie. The plot and themes are great, the design is great, and my favorite part is the character interactions. They're just so incredibly written and entertaining. Let's just watch this scene.
Your head's a turnip. I've always hated turnips, ever since I was little. At least you're not upside down now. So long.
That was just so unnecessary, but it's so funny. It's one of my favorite Ghibli scenes. I can't say enough about this movie. The anti-war themes are definitely at their strongest, the characters themselves are spectacular, the castle is just really cool, and overall, if you haven't seen the movie, you're just doing yourself a disservice. I also kind of want to read the book now. From what I've seen, it's supposed to be pretty good, although not as good as the movie, but it would be pretty shocking if it was. In second place, I have Princess Mononoke. It's definitely the least child-friendly of the Ghibli films, and I really wish they could do more movies like it. In my opinion, it is possibly top 2 in world building for Ghibli movies. The only movie I think maybe is better is the next movie on the list, and everything about the movie is just so good. I rewatched it just to think of what to say, and the ending is just so powerful and emotional. And I really wish this could be number 1 on the list, but I think the next movie is maybe a little bit better. And finally, at number 1, if you haven't already guessed it, is Spirited Away. Good music, good characters, good world, good story. It's a great movie. I saved it for last just because I knew it would be good, and I'm glad I did. It was a really good way to cap off the Ghibli movies. I mean, it is the only anime to win an Academy Award. That's at least a little bit impressive. I don't know how to describe it, but Spirited Away has an amazing atmosphere to it, and the character designs and environment designs in general were just very interesting. Like, Yubaba was kind of goofy looking. I don't really think I should say much more than if you haven't already seen this movie, then go and do so as soon as you can, or after every other Ghibli movie if you're feeling it. Alright, that's my list of every Ghibli movie. I know my commentary on every movie was a bit random, but I just wanted to give my brief opinions and not overanalyze because that would make this video way too long. If you're still watching, then I would appreciate if you liked the video.